Jones County commissioners get new details on a possible transformation to the vacant prison.
Plus, new details released on a Friday night shooting at Abuelo's.
And as we move into the rest of the week, temperatures are staying pretty warm for us here in the Big Country. I'll have that forecast here in a few minutes. Abilene's local news starts right now.
All right, we're going to call this called meeting of the Jones County Commissioners Court to order. It's Monday, August the 19th. It's 9
As the clock struck 9.
Live from Abilene's first news station, Big Country Proud. This is KRBC, Abilene's local news at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kathleen Barkley.
And I'm David Bacon. Thank you for joining us. A vacant Anson prison could soon house hundreds of illegal immigrants.
Jones County commissioners learned more about the potential transformation. Mercedes Hernandez has our top story tonight at 10.
All right, we're going to call this called meeting of the Jones County Commissioners Court to order. It's Monday, August the 19th. It's 9.
As the clock struck 9, business began for several Jones County leaders. 5 items on the agenda, but one of them drawing the most scrutiny.
We will be going to an executive session on agenda item number 3, which is discuss take action on the Texas Midwest Jones County Detention Facility.
The Texas Midwest Jones County Detention Facility, also called the Bluebonnet Facility, would transform this prison in Anson into a housing facility for 750 adult male illegal immigrants. The building has sat empty for about 10 years after the Texas Department of Criminal Justice walked away from its contract with the county, failing to put any heads in the more than 1,000 beds of the $35 million facility. According to Jones County Judge Dale Spurgeon, entering into an agreement with Immigration and Customs Enforcement would give bondholders a chance to earn back the money they lost so many years ago.
And we just felt like for the benefit of the bondholders and the money that they invested, for an opportunity to get some of their money back.
The detention center, Judge Spurgeon says, would also create 250 new jobs for the area, but not everyone was won over by the potential economic impact of the building. 2 Jones County ministers asked commissioners to evaluate the issue from a moral standpoint. Pastor Richard Strait from Avoca disagreed with the idea of making money off who he calls society's most vulnerable.
When we gain economically on the backs of those who are the poorest and the most vulnerable among us, that to me has a moral component.
Commissioners are expected to make their final decision on the facility next week, but having already been spurned once in regards to the prison, Judge Spurgeon and others are looking ahead cautiously.
Because of our history and our experience, you know, we know that tomorrow may bring a different answer, but we feel like this one is worth pursuing and moving it forward, and we will see what happens.
Thank you, Mercedes. If the county commissioners vote to move forward with the ICE facility, it could be up and running in as little as 3 months.
We'll get into more of your local headlines in 60 seconds, but first let's go to Dylan with your first check of the forecast. Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Kathleen. I'd say we have some pretty good news as we move into this first week of school for a lot, if not the entire Big Country. While we're staying hot, don't get me wrong, we aren't going to be quite as hot as we were this past weekend and last week. Take a look across the country. A little bit of activity down in the Gulf of Mexico, but currently here in the Big Country, it's been quiet all day. We could see a couple little showers tomorrow afternoon. I'll have that in the forecast. But taking a look across the Big Country, clear skies, 90 degrees still for Abilene, and tomorrow will be pretty similar today, not quite as hot in the afternoon. We will mostly be topping out in the mid to upper 90s, not quite the lower 100s, but we could definitely see a few more of those triple digits before the week is over. Could even see a couple little isolated showers in the eastern parts of the Big Country, primarily in the afternoon hours. Guys?
Thank you, Dylan. An update in your crime headlines. A 19-year-old man is arrested for his involvement in a shooting Friday night. Stephen Ryan Miller, charged with aggravated assault. Police say he shot a man in the stomach after a fist fight at Abuelo's on South 14th. Miller was in a car with another man and two women. According to police, the passenger repeatedly poked the woman and brought up past issues. Once they arrived at Abuelo's, the woman informed her boyfriend and the two men began to fight. Miller got out, began yelling. He then got out and shot the man in the stomach. Victim taken to the hospital to recover.
Tonight, the investigation continues into what caused several fires in East Abilene Sunday evening. Now, here's exactly where those fires happened. Now, that black line is the railroad, and as you can see, the fires right along that line. A total of 50 fire personnel from Abilene and 7 volunteer fire departments responding. Estimated acreage of the fires between 40 and 60. Fortunately, no injuries reported. Several structures saved, but several storage containers and a small shed were destroyed. As crews worked to battle this fire, black smoke could be seen for miles, attracting everyone passing by to stop and take pictures or videos, something fire crews tell us became an issue.
Coming in and out of these different properties, you know, from one driveway to another, and just trying to avoid all that traffic coming out of that thick smoke, and watching for traffic and just all the cars, and it was even stopped in the way. I mean, you'd have to honk at them to get them to move.
As the investigation into this fire continues, we'll have the latest information both on the air and on BigCountryHomepage.com.
Now to City Council chambers, where the budget for the Taylor County Events Venue District will be reviewed this week. Now, this could mean less money for Frontier Texas and more for the Expo Center. Council is considering taking 1.5% from Frontier Texas and giving it to the Expo Center. The new allocation of funds brings the percentages each entity gets to 53.5% for Frontier Texas and 46.5% for the Expo Center.
We're actually approving their budget for next year. The venue board has already approved that, and so this is just council reviewing that and agreeing with it. So.
The venue tax sunsets in 2024 when the bonds for the Expo and Shotwell Stadium have been paid off. Council will also set the date for a public hearing for the proposed 2020 tax rate. That special called meeting will be set for September 5th. The final vote will be during the regularly scheduled meeting on September 12th. Once approved, the tax rate for Abilene will be set for the next year.
Well, September 1st is quickly approaching, and that means a lot of changes across the state as new laws go into effect. Now, here's some laws you might want to be aware of. First up, open carry allowed after natural disaster. This new bill allows Texans complying with an evacuation order to temporarily carry guns without a license for up to 48 hours. That is, as long as they're not prohibited by state or federal law from possessing a firearm. This bill was prompted by the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey and the Alto tornadoes, when many were left vulnerable while trying to protect what little they had left. Another bill signed into law by Governor Greg Abbott. Children will now be able to operate lemonade stands without a license. Originally, cities and neighborhoods banned the stands, requiring permits for those kids to operate. Support for this law grew after police in Overton shut down a stand run by 2 siblings raising money for their dad's Father's Day presents. Finally, the minimum age to purchase tobacco products will be raised to 21. The restriction does not apply to those in the military, as they're allowed to join at age 18 without parental consent. Texas is the 16th state to raise the age. According to the Texas 21 Coalition, 7.4% of high school students smoke, more than 10% use e-cigarettes, and more than 10,000 kids become daily smokers every year. You can get a full list of the laws that go into effect on BigCountryHomepage.com.
A Texas teen's illness may be the latest in a series of cases linked to vaping. Health officials around the country are looking into ties between vaping and medical problems. Here's KRBC's Wes Rappaport with more.
Coughing, nausea, even seizures. Dozens of cases across the country where health officials are investigating possible links to vaping. The Texas Department of State Health Services is looking into the connection. While health experts say cigarette smoking is down, electronic smoking products are flourishing.
What a lot of kids do is you can actually fit it in your hand, and then if you ever see a kid just put his hand up to his mouth, and then you know exactly what he's doing.
The CDC announced it is investigating nearly 100 cases in 14 states since June, and the FDA has received dozens of reports of seizures and other neurological symptoms. Doctors say otherwise young, healthy people are entering ERs with severe respiratory illnesses.
There's zero regulation, and that's the scary part of it. That's the danger of it.
But doctors are largely in the dark, with vaping seeming to be the common thread.
Especially the flavored type of vaping. I think that's the most suspect in this whole picture.
The symptoms mirror those of common infections, but so far, those tested show no evidence of an actual infection.
There's not actually a diagnosis for vaping toxicity as the diagnosis. I think through the process of elimination, we would probably have an opinion that we might say it might have been linked to that, but we don't even know enough about it to say, or to even have a formal diagnosis in our literature to say this is the reason, this is the diagnosis.
A spokesperson for e-cigarette maker Juul Labs sent us a statement today which said in part, reporting also suggests that teenagers were vaping both nicotine and THC, a Schedule I controlled substance that we do not sell. Regardless, those reports reaffirm the need to keep all tobacco and nicotine products out of the hands of youth through significant regulation on access and enforcement.
Coming up on your local news at 10, August is setting up to be the hottest one on record, but not just here, all across the nation.
Yeah, it's been hot, that is for sure. Luckily, we are cooling off, though, as we move into the rest of the week. Not by a lot, but enough to maybe stay out of the triple digits. I'll have that forecast coming up next.
This is KRBC, Abilene's local news at 10, with Kathleen Barkley, David Bacon, and Chief Meteorologist Dylan Smith.